In Guanqing's business world, gaining Zhang Yin's favor was like activating a cheat code in life, promising a limitless future. The couple brought their son to the banquet simply to help their children network and pave the way for their future. Young Master Zhang, just now you were. I escorted my two older sisters to their car. I just got back. Before Zhang Yin could finish his question, Zhang Yinqing proactively explained his absence, afraid Zhang Yin might misunderstand his dislike for the occasion or the hotel service. Guanqing Grand Hotel was, after all, one of the Zhang family's properties. Zhang Yin simply hummed in acknowledgement and walked past Zhang Yinqing, as if their exchange was merely a polite greeting. Before Zhang Yinqing could grasp the situation, a crowd swarmed around Zhang Yin, leaving him in the dust, a mere bystander. Zhang Yin usually made brief appearances at these events, a habit everyone was accustomed to. The CEOs who had seized the opportunity to discuss business with Zhang Yin inwardly rejoiced at their quick action. Soon, the Rolls-Royce with a license plate XX8888, escorted by several security vehicles, departed from Guanqing Grand Hotel. "Young master, where to?" the driver asked while driving. Zhang Yin glanced at his watch. It was only 9:30 p.m., quite early for him. After a moment's thought, he said, "Mingyuan Gardens." "Understood," the driver replied. To Zhang Yin's surprise, he arrived home before Haitong. Back in his empty, cold, and lonely apartment, Zhang Yin sat on the sofa, boredly watching TV, waiting for his wife who had left the hotel earlier but hadn't yet returned. His bodyguards had documented Haitong's every move at the banquet and sent the photos to his phone. Zhang Yin flipped through the pictures. The woman acted as if she hadn't eaten a decent meal in 800 years, focused solely on eating. However, her hiding in a corner to eat was better than her flirting with other men. Looking at her attire, Zhang Yin frowned. She hadn't even bothered to wear an evening gown. How casual. Of course, if she had dressed up elaborately, he would have locked her out. Besides Zhang Yinqing, she hadn't spoken to any other man. Zhang Yinqing was her best friend's cousin. They must have known each other already. Finally, Zhang Yin stared at one particular photo, his lips pressed tightly together, his eyes darkening. Even though the bodyguards were taking covert photos, the angle was quite sharp, capturing the moment Zhang Yinqing glanced at Haitong. As the head of the Zhang group, Zhang Yin's gaze was razor-sharp. He caught the subtle nuance. Zhang Yinqing liked Haitong. He had a rival. The door lock clicked. Zhang Yin quickly stuffed his phone back into his pocket. Haitong entered, surprised to see Zhang Yin watching TV. As she closed and locked the door, she asked, "Mr. Zhang, no overtime tonight?" Zhang Yin responded with a low hum. Haitong walked over, holding a transparent plastic bag. "I bought stinky tofu. Do you want some?" Zhang Yin glared at her with a darkened face. She'd been eating the whole time at the banquet. Wasn't she full yet? What a glutton! Stinky tofu smells bad, but the more you eat it, the more fragrant it becomes. The man I admire most loved to eat it. Haitong sat down next to Zhang Yin and opened the bag. The smell of stinky tofu wafted out. Zhang Yin subtly shifted to the side, trying to distance himself from the smell he wasn't used to. "The man you admire most?" "The one on the renminbi." Zhang Yin. Money to him was just a string of numbers in his bank account. "Want to try a piece? It's really delicious, truly. It's very fragrant, I really like it." "I don't want any. Eat it yourself. Also, can you go out to the balcony to eat? I can't stand the smell." Seeing his nauseated expression, Haitong hurriedly took the bag and walked away, muttering to herself. People with high incomes are probably very particular about their lives. On the balcony, Haitong ate with gusto. Zhang Yin could see her back from inside the room, his handsome face clouded, yet he didn't say anything. Everyone's preferences are different. "Mr. Zhang, you don't have to work overtime tonight, so can you get up a little earlier tomorrow?" Haitong asked the man inside from the balcony. Zhang Yin was silent for a moment before coldly asking, "Is something the matter?" He was probably a cold person by nature. From the first time she met him, he always spoke coldly. Haitong complained inwardly, but she was just living with him. Whenever they couldn't go on, they would divorce. "I want you to drive me to the flower shop at the market tomorrow to buy some potted flowers to put on the balcony. You have a car, it's more convenient." Jeanine didn't reply. If you can't get up that early, you can lend me your car, and I'll go myself. What time? After an internal struggle, Jeanine asked her the time, deciding to get up early tomorrow morning to accompany her to the market flower shop to buy some potted flowers to decorate their balcony. 6 o'clock. We'll have breakfast first, then buy flowers and also buy some daily necessities for the house. On the first day she moved in, Hai Tong found that the house lacked many things. She suspected that before she moved in, Jeanine didn't live there. There was no sign of life. Okay. After Hai Tong finished eating the stinky tofu and came back inside, Jeanine asked her, "Your shop closed so early tonight?" "I wasn't at the shop tonight. My friend had a banquet and asked me to go with her. By the way, Mr. Jean, can I ask you something? I hope it's not inconvenient." Hai Tong sat across from Jeanine, her beautiful eyes looking at the man opposite her. Although he was aloof and always cold, and his attitude towards her wasn't very good, she knew he had built a wall in his heart, not against others, but specifically against her. But he really was very handsome, like a beautiful, pleasing landscape to look at. Tonight's banquet was held at the Gucheng Grand Hotel. I heard that the Gucheng Grand Hotel belongs to the richest family, and their eldest son was there tonight. I heard his surname is also Jean. Mr. Jean, you don't have any relation to that family, do you? Zhang Yin's expression remained calm as he indifferently said, "We were family 500 years ago." Hai Tong breathed a sigh of relief and laughed. "I knew you weren't connected to the richest family." Seeing her relieved and happy appearance, Jeanine inexplicably asked, "You don't want me to be related to them?" "It's nighttime now," Hai Tong said with a grin. "Don't daydream. If you were related to the Zhang family of Gucheng, would you marry a stranger like me? Even using my toes, I can figure out that the Zhang family's threshold is higher than I am. Even if you were a distant branch of the family, I would feel like I was reaching too high and wouldn't feel comfortable interacting with you. Since you're not related, I feel like we're on the same level, and I don't have any psychological pressure." Jeanine pursed his lips and remained silent. "Your grandma told me you work at a big company. Have you heard of young Master Jean? He's the eldest son of the richest family. He was there tonight, like an emperor arriving, surrounded by everyone. Xiao Jun and I stood on tiptoe, but still couldn't see what he looked like." Jeanine continued to remain silent, his gaze towards Hai Tong becoming deeper and colder. "They say young Master Jean always has a group of bodyguards around him and doesn't allow young women to approach him. Xiao Jun heard that he isn't married and hasn't had any scandals. He probably doesn't even have a girlfriend. Mr. Jean, do you think there's something wrong with him? Or is his sexual orientation the problem, since he's an old man and still unmarried at his age?" Jeanine nearly bit his tongue in shock at her words. He glared fiercely at Hai Tong. She actually questioned his sexual orientation right in front of him. Her glare in Hai Tong's eyes was surprise. She analyzed, with his pomp and circumstance and him not allowing young women near him, doesn't that mean he doesn't like women? If he doesn't like women, then there's a problem. No wonder he's still unmarried at his age. We ordinary folks don't understand the world of the rich. Suppressing the urge to strangle her, Jeanine coldly asked, "How do you know he's an old man and advanced in age? Just because he doesn't like young women near him means there's something wrong with him. He's the head of the Jean family. This isn't a novel. Rich second-generation heirs who can become and succeed as the family successor are all mature and steady, at least 35 years old or older, already middle-aged. For a young woman like me, wouldn't that make him an old man?" Jeanine opened his mouth, but couldn't refute her. He couldn't tell her that the eldest son of the Jean family was only 30 years old, just 5 years older than her, and not an old man at all. After a long while, he coldly asked her, "Are you very interested in young Master Jean?" "Not interested, just the first time I've heard gossip about a big CEO up close. Just being nosy and making some guesses." Aunt Shin really hopes Xiao Jun can catch young Master Jean's eye, but Xiao Jun doesn't want to marry into a rich family. Once you enter a rich family, it's like the depths of the sea. She had heard Xiao Jun talk about Aunt Shin's hardships when she first married into a rich family. The Shin family were multimillionaires. Although their wealth came from demolition, their assets were substantial. Even Aunt Shun had a difficult time after marrying into a rich family, so ordinary girls like them shouldn't even dream of a prince and Cinderella story. It's late. I'm going to take a shower. Hai Tong, after chatting with her husband, ran out of topics. They were still not familiar with each other, after all. She got up and went to the balcony to retrieve her clothes. When you were decorating this place, you should have had someone install 2 rods on the balcony for drying clothes. Jeanine didn't reply. He bought a fully furnished apartment and usually didn't worry about such trivial matters. How would he know to install 2 rods on the balcony for drying clothes? This weekend, after I've seen your parents, I'll go back to my hometown and cut down a couple of bamboo poles to bring back. Jean-Yves said indifferently, no need. I'll have someone come over and install them tomorrow. The dignified young madam of the Jean family running so far back to the countryside to cut down 2 bamboo poles just to dry clothes. Only she could think of it. All right, then I'll trouble you. This is my home too. Hai Tong hummed in agreement, holding her clothes and walking towards her room. After pushing open the door, she turned her head and said to Jean-Yves, if you want after your shower, you can bring out your changed clothes and I'll wash them with mine. No need, thank you. Tomorrow I'll have someone send over 2 washing machines, 1 for each bathroom. It's more convenient. All right, tell me how much the washing machines cost, and I'll pay half. He had already given her a bank card, saying it was for household expenses. If he bought washing machines, she naturally couldn't let him pay for everything. Jean-Yves said indifferently, 2 washing machines don't cost much, just over 10,000 yuan. I can afford it. Besides, it's also furniture for our little home. Afraid that she would think he didn't know how to manage money, he explained, I'm usually busy with work, leaving early and returning late. My clothes are all sent to the dry cleaners, so I haven't bought a washing machine. It wasn't that he didn't know how to manage money, but that he hadn't considered so much and didn't know what was needed in daily life. For the past 30 years, he had lived a privileged life as a young master, although he would also do some things he could. But washing clothes, he really hadn't done it himself. Let's go. Jean-Yves walked over and said indifferently. Hai Tong hummed in agreement and followed him. The couple walked together in silence. Hai Tong initially wanted to start a conversation, but seeing his serious expression and perpetually taut face, which always gave off an unapproachable aura, she lost interest. Someone like him should be a teacher. With his seriousness, he could definitely keep a class of children in line. A while later, they arrived at the market. Hai Tong directed Jean-Yves to park in an empty space. After getting out of the car, she said to him, Come on, let's have breakfast first. Jean-Yves didn't speak, silently following her. Young Master Jean, experiencing the market for the first time, was very uncomfortable, but he cooperated with Hai Tong, not letting her see his unease. At the breakfast stall, they each ordered a bowl of rice noodle soup. Hai Tong also ordered a steamer basket of dumplings. She had a good appetite, and 1 bowl of soup wouldn't fill her up. Jean-Yves ate very slowly. Hai Tong thought he had beautiful table manners. Watching him eat improved her appetite. If she wasn't afraid Jean-Yves would judge her for eating so much, she would have ordered another bowl of wontons and a piece of golden cake. If you're not full, order whatever else you want. Jean-Yves saw that she still wanted to eat. With her appetite, how could a bowl of rice noodle soup and a steamer of dumplings be enough? Last night at the banquet, she had been eating nonstop for over an hour. Even after that, she still took some stinky tofu home. She had a slim, model-like figure. He wondered where all the food went. I'm full. Watching you eat makes me hungry. Jean-Yves frowned. Don't be angry. I'm saying you have elegant table manners. Watching you eat makes it seem like you're eating delicacies, making others want to eat too. Jean-Yves glanced at her twice, said nothing, and lowered his head to eat his rice noodles. He was eating slowly because he wasn't used to the food. After the couple finished their meal, Hai Tong led him. Instead of going directly to the flower shop, she went to a nearby 24-hour ATM. He saw her take out the bank card he had given her from her small purse. Hai Tong had a good memory and had memorized the PIN after seeing him write it down. She inserted the card into the ATM, entered the password, and checked the balance. It was only 100,000 yuan. 100,000 yuan was enough for her to buy a lot of furniture for daily use. If the money isn't enough, tell me. I'll transfer more to this card. It's plenty for a small family of 2. How could we need so much? I just wanted to see how much money we have so I can budget accordingly. After buying furniture, she still needed to save some for living expenses. She had checked her online orders. They would arrive one after another tomorrow. In any case, she would definitely be able to personally cook a good meal to entertain her in-laws on the day she met them. Let's go to the flower shop. Hai Tong put the bank card back in her purse and led John-in towards a nearby flower shop. There were several flower shops near the market, and business was usually good. Because they were near the market, people liked to buy groceries in the morning and evening, so the flower shops near the market opened early. Hai Tong first asked John-in and learned that he had no particular preferences for flowers. So, she bought a lot of potted plants according to her own liking, as well as 2 flower stands, intending to assemble them at home. John-in watched her choose, watched her haggle with the florist. A 50 yuan pot of flowers. She managed to knock down to half the price, and somehow made the owner feel like he wouldn't sell them if he didn't sell to her. John-in found it quite novel. His uncle never looked at the price when buying things, and certainly never haggled. He hadn't expected his wife to be a bargainer. Seeing the florist's pained expression, as if a chunk of his flesh had been cut off, John-in almost laughed. After paying, Hai Tong began carrying the potted plants, one by one, to Zhang-yin's car. At first, John-in just stood and watched. Later, feeling it was a bit much for a girl to be carrying flowers while he stood idly by, he started helping her. They filled his car to the brim. Fortunately, the florist had given them some cardboard to put on the seats to avoid getting them dirty. "Anything else you need to buy?" John-in asked his wife as he got into the car. "The car is full. There's no room for anything else. Let's not buy anything more for now. Running a household isn't something that can be done in a day or two. I'll buy more things and arrange them when I have time." Hai Tong fastened her seatbelt, checked her phone, and said, "Let's go back first. I have to go to my sister's place later." John-in silently started the car. "Mr. Jean." "Yes. This weekend, Grandma and your parents are coming over. Could I ask my sister and her husband to come over for dinner too? My family is my sister and brother-in-law. We've gotten our marriage certificate, regardless of whether we have feelings or not. Since we're meeting parents, both sides should meet, right? So they wouldn't be strangers if they ran into each other." Hai Tong still had grandparents and other relatives in the countryside, but they all disliked her and her sister for being girls. After their parents died in a car accident, no one was willing to take them in, but they did take a portion of the compensation money her parents had paid for with their lives. Her parents' house was occupied by her grandparents. She basically wouldn't go back there and didn't consider them family. They disliked the sisters for being girls, refused to take them in when their parents died, and then had the nerve to ask for a 300,000 yuan betrothal gift when her sister got married. The sisters fiercely rebuked them. Her sister resolutely refused to let her husband give them the money. In the end, they didn't get the 300,000 yuan, cursed and left, not even attending her sister's wedding. In Hai Tong's heart, her sister was her family. John-in didn't refuse. He said indifferently, "That's only right. Tell your sister. Have them come over on Saturday and meet my parents." "Okay." Soon, they returned to Famous Garden. The car stopped downstairs. Hai Tong, like a tomboy, started carrying the flowers upstairs. John-in, however, called the security guards, gave them a generous reward, and asked them to help carry the potted plants upstairs. Things that could be solved with money should be solved with money. No need to tire themselves out. Although Hai Tong felt that he wasn't being frugal, considering they weren't familiar with each other, she couldn't very well accuse him of wasting money. From another perspective, he was being considerate, not wanting her to be tired. That little bit of money spent was spent. It was worth it. Soon, a corner of the balcony was filled with potted plants. John-in went to see the security guards out. Hai Tong stood on the balcony watching. The balcony was so large that even after buying a carload of potted plants, they only filled one corner. The flower stands hadn't been assembled yet. She didn't have time now, but she would assemble them when she got back early tonight. "What's wrong? The balcony is too big. These few flowers don't create the effect I want." John-in took a look. Indeed." His voice was cold and indifferent. "What kind of effect do you want? Like a small garden?" Hai Tong nodded. "You need to go to your sister's, right? You go ahead. I'll go back to the flower shop and buy a few more carloads of potted plants. Hai Tong checked the time and asked him, "What time do you go to work?" "I can go a little later." Hai Tong understood. He, as a high-level white-collar worker, still had some privileges. She took out the bank card and handed it to Jeanine, instructing him, "You have to bargain with the boss. Cutting the price in half should be about right." Jeanine pushed the card back. "I still have money." Hai Tong looked at him twice, but didn't insist. She had to go to her sister's house. After reminding Jeanine once again to bargain when buying flowers, she took the electric scooter key and hurried off. Unbeknownst to her, after she left, her husband took a short video of the balcony with his phone and sent it to Huibo, the garden manager of the Jean family estate. Huibo quickly called back. "Young master. Huibo, you saw the video, right? Set up this balcony into a small garden. See how many pots of flowers you need. Then pick some inexpensive, easy-to-bloom ones from the greenhouse, the kind with lots of big, full blossoms. Deliver them to Mingyuan Garden, Building B, 8th floor, room 808. While accompanying Hai Tong to buy flowers, Jeanine had noticed that she liked flowers with large, complex blossoms. She didn't like those with single petals. Also, remember to make an invoice. "Huibo." "Okay, deliver them before this evening." "Okay." Whatever the young master instructed, he would do. Just put them on the balcony after carrying them upstairs. You don't need to do anything else. Let Hai Tong arrange them herself. If he did it all, she might not like it. Huibo responded respectfully again. Jeanine quickly hung up the phone. The unsuspecting Hai Tong packed breakfast for her sister and nephew, just like yesterday. In a good mood, she also bought a children's electric motorcycle for her nephew. Onchi. As Hai Tong opened the door and entered the house, she heard her nephew Zhou Yang's clear call. "Yang, you're up so early today. Come and see what Annie bought you." Car. Zhou Yang was only 2 years old and couldn't say much. He trotted over and happily circled the electric motorcycle, unable to express his joy in words. Hai Ling came out of the bathroom. She had just thrown her and her husband's clothes into the washing machine. She washed her son's clothes by hand. Tong, you're wasting money again. I bought it for my nephew." "How is that wasting money?" Hai Tong put down the breakfast and then picked up her nephew, placing Yang on the electric motorcycle and teaching him how to ride it. Zhou Yang was very smart and learned quickly, soon riding the motorcycle and bumping around the living room. "Sis, I brought breakfast for you and Yang. I set my alarm last night and got up early this morning to prepare breakfast so your brother-in-law could eat before going to work." Seeing her son playing happily, Hai Ling's face also wore a smile. "Don't buy breakfast for us anymore. You're married now and have your own family. You should spend your money on your own family, not always on your sister's. Your husband will have opinions about it." She didn't want her sister to become someone who only supported her older sister. "Buying breakfast doesn't cost much, sis. I know what I'm doing." Hai Tong's income wasn't low. She would help her sister, but she wouldn't put all her earnings into it. She still wanted to buy a house. "Has Yang eaten yet?" Hai Tong asked while touching Zhou Yang's forehead. His temperature was normal. "He's had his milk. I'm simmering some pork rib porridge. I'll feed him some when it's done. He won't go hungry." Hai Ling took very good care of her son. "Sis, Jeanine will be back in 2 days this Saturday. His parents are coming over that day too. You and my brother-in-law should go to famous garden residence to meet his parents." Hearing this, Hai Ling asked happily, "My brother-in-law is coming back from his business trip? He said he'll be home Friday night." "Okay, I'll tell my husband." Hai Ling knew what had happened with her sister's sudden marriage. Her sister was still lying, and though she didn't expose her, she was worried that her sister hadn't married well. She hadn't even seen what her brother-in-law looked like. She considered meeting her sister's in-laws a very important matter. After staying at her sister's place for a while, Hai Tong went to work. After Hai Tong left, Hai Ling fed her son porridge and then took him out for a walk and to do some shopping. She wanted to buy herself a couple of new outfits to wear when her sister met her in-laws. Normally, she dressed casually at home, wearing cheap clothes from the market. When she was still single, she was very particular about her appearance. Although the clothes she wore weren't from big brands, they were several levels above market stall goods. Now that she was married with a child, She had no job and no income, and her previous savings had all been spent on renovating the house. Nowadays, she was very careful with her spending, mostly on the family, rarely on herself. To make a good impression on her sisters-in-laws, Hai Ling bought two relatively upscale outfits and also bought a new suit and tie for her husband. Just as she walked out of the clothing store, she received a call from her husband. "Hello, hubby." Hai Ling held her son and pushed the stroller while answering the phone. "What did you buy again? You spent over 1,000 yuan in one go, and you've already used up most of this month's living expenses. Let me tell you, living expenses are also split 50-50. The more than 1,000 yuan you spent today is yours. If it's not enough later, you figure it out yourself." Hai Ling's husband, Zhou Honglin, like Zhang, had specifically opened a bank card for his wife to use. He deposited a sum of money into it every month for household expenses. However, the bank card was linked to his mobile phone number, so he received a notification every time Hai Ling spent money. The daily food expenses for the family of three were controlled within 100 yuan. Zhou Honglin deposited 3,000 yuan into the household bank card every month. If Hai Ling was frugal, she could save a few hundred yuan for pocket money. But if the child got sick and needed to see a doctor, the 3,000 yuan wouldn't last until the end of the month. When she went out, she forgot to bring her own bank card and had to use the household card. She hadn't expected her husband to call and question her as soon as she left the clothing store. "I saw your purchases at the clothing store. You bought clothes? And such expensive ones. You spent over 1,000 yuan in one go. Can't you save a little? Do you think money grows on trees? I still have to pay the mortgage and car loan, give my parents living expenses, and Yang needs milk powder, diapers, and all sorts of things. Everything costs money. You don't earn any money. I'm the only one working, and you don't even know how to save a bit or be considerate of me." Hai Ling waited for her husband to finish his accusations before explaining. Tong said her brother-in-law will be back on Friday, and both families will get together on Saturday to meet and have dinner. "I'm Tong's parent, so I need to make a good impression on her in-laws. My old clothes don't fit anymore, so I had to buy two new outfits. I also bought you a new suit and tie, Honglin, this weekend. How about we don't go back to your mother's place?" After hearing her explanation, Zhou Honglin muttered something softly. Hai Ling didn't hear him clearly and asked, "Honglin, what did you say?" "Nothing. It's true that we should dress well to meet her parents, but you didn't need to buy two outfits. One would have been enough. Also, you need to lose weight. Once you lose weight, you can wear your old clothes again. Those clothes are such good quality. It's a waste if you can't wear them. Look at you. All you do all day is eat and drink, spending money recklessly, turning yourself into a pig. If you were really a pig, you could be slaughtered at the end of the year and sold for a good price, but you're a pig that can't be sold." Thinking of his wife's plump figure, Zhou Honglin's words were filled with disgust. When it came to their intimate life, unless he was particularly desperate, he didn't even want to touch his wife. The sharp, capable, slender, and beautiful Hai Ling was gone. He really didn't expect that just 3 years of marriage could turn his wife into such a fat woman. His mother and sister were right. Hai Ling had eaten her way to this state. She couldn't earn money and only knew how to spend it. Manager Zhou Honglin's young secretary, pushed the door open. As her sweet voice rang out, Zhou Honglin quickly said to his wife on the phone, "Hai Ling, I have to work. Hurry up and go cook. Don't wait for me to get home from work and find there's no dinner. I don't know what you do all day at home." After complaining about his wife, Zhou Honglin hung up the call without waiting for Hai Ling to reply. "Manager Zhou, please take a look at this document. If there's no problem, please sign it." The young secretary handed a document to Zhou Honglin. Zhou Honglin hummed an acknowledgement, took the document, looked it over, and after confirming there were no issues, he signed it. When he returned the document to the secretary, he took a rectangular brocade box from his drawer. He handed the box to the secretary and looked at her affectionately, saying, "Yezi, after I finished my business meeting last night, I passed by Chow Tai Fuk on my way home and picked out a gold necklace for you. See if you like it." Yi Jianyi took the brocade box and opened it. Inside, there was indeed a gold necklace. A smile appeared on her face as she took the necklace out of the box. Zhou Honglin got up and walked around his desk, coming up behind her. He took the necklace from her hand and considerately said, "Let me put it on for you." "Okay." Zhou Honglin helped her put on the necklace and then kissed her cheek, praising, "Very beautiful. It suits you very well." Yi Jinni stood up, turned around, and hugged his neck, giving him a peck on the cheek and thanking him sweetly. "Manager Zhou, thank you. I really like this necklace. Call me Honglin when we're alone." Zhou Honglin hugged her tightly, his handsome face filled with desire. He whispered something in Yi Jinni's ear. Yi Jinni immediately pushed him away. "Chun Dao, you have a lovely wife and a beloved son at home. We agreed that we'd only have a spiritual relationship, nothing more." She enjoyed her boss's pursuit and pampering, accepting all the flowers and gifts he sent. She would even kiss him, but she held on to that final line of defense. It wasn't because she was particularly virtuous, but because she was stringing Zhou Honglin along. What she wanted wasn't to be a hidden mistress, but to be Mrs. Zhou Honglin. However, Zhou Honglin and his wife had been in love for many years, and were even college classmates. His wife, Hai Ling, used to be the company's financial director, but she had resigned and become a stay-at-home mom by the time Yi Jinni joined the company. Yi Jinni had never met Hai Ling, but through older colleagues, she knew that Hai Ling had given birth to their son, Zhou Yang, a year after getting married, and had been staying home raising him ever since. They also said that after giving birth, Hai Ling's figure had become distorted, and she had grown as fat as a ball. She had also heard Zhou Honglin complain more than once about his wife being as fat as a pig. Yi Jinni sneered inwardly, thinking Hai Ling was a foolish woman. Even after marriage, a woman should maintain her figure. Fat like a ball. How could any man still like her? She didn't blame herself for hooking up with Mr. Zhou. It was Hai Ling's own fault for not maintaining a good figure, making Mr. Zhou lose interest in her, and also for being a spendthrift. If Hai Ling spent less, Mr. Zhou could spend more on her. At the mention of Hai Ling, Zhou Honglin immediately said with disgust, "She's a pig. The sight of her makes me sick. If it weren't for wanting to give my son a complete family, I would have divorced her long ago." His sister-in-law, on the other hand, maintained her figure well and was younger and prettier than Hai Ling. Even though both sisters came from the countryside, Hai Tong had a more refined air than Hai Ling. Of course, Hai Ling used to have that refined air too, but now that she was so fat, it was all ruined. Unaware that her husband had been having an affair with his secretary, Hai Ling pushed her son in a stroller. She knew her husband had a secretary, and even hearing the secretary's sweet voice on the phone hadn't aroused her suspicion. She pushed her son along, but not paying attention to the road, she bumped the stroller into a parked Maybach. The damage to the luxury car from the stroller was minor, just a scratch, but after seeing the car's logo, she was terrified. As luck would have it, the car owner returned and, seeing the scene, hurried over. "Sir, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." Hai Ling apologized repeatedly. The man, about 34 or 35 years old, was dressed in black. His features were regular, but a scar on his right cheek made him look a little intimidating. Young Zhou Yang, upon seeing him, was frightened and turned to Hai Ling, reaching out his small hands to be held. The scarred man looked at his car. Seeing Hai Ling with a small child, although his expression was unpleasant, he didn't yell. He just said in a deep voice, "Leave your contact information. After my car is repainted, I'll contact you for reimbursement." "Sir, I'm sorry." The scarred man paused for a moment and then said, "It's already happened. Saying sorry won't help. Be careful when you walk next time. You have to compensate me for scratching my car, but if you had injured your baby, you would be heartbroken." Yes, it's my fault. I'll be careful next time." Hai Ling took out her phone. "Sir, tell me your number. I'll call you, and you can save my number. When your car is repaired, I'll pay for all the costs." The scarred man gave her his number. Hai Ling dialed it and hung up after it rang. "Your last name?" "My last name is Hai. I'm Hai Ling." The scarred man saved Hai Ling's name and waved his hand. "All right, you can go now." Hai Ling apologized again and quickly pushed her son away. She was going to be scolded to death by her husband when she got home. At this moment, a fleet of luxury cars slowly approached. Among them was a Rolls-Royce, Zhang Yin's private car. The car stopped at the roadside, and Zhang Yin lowered the window. After seeing the scarred man, he called out, "Dong Ming, what are you doing here?" Buying something. Someone scratched my car. Didn't catch the person who scratched your car? Jean-Ian instinctively said. Need me to help you find the person who scratched your car? No need. I got her number. I'll ask her for compensation after my car is repaired. In Guangxing, she can't escape from my grasp. Lu Dongming returned to his car and quickly drove off. He said to Jean-Ian, let's go. Hearing this, Jean-Ian didn't say anything more and rolled up the window. Soon, the several luxury cars drove away. The day passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was evening again. After the students went to their evening self-study session, Hai Tong was about to go into the kitchenette to prepare dinner for herself and Xiao Jun when she received a call from her sister. Tong, I've been thinking about it all day, and I have no other choice but to tell you. Sister, what's the matter? When I went shopping this morning, I accidentally scratched a Maybach while pushing Yang. Even minor repairs on that kind of luxury car cost a fortune. I told my husband, and not only did he scold me, but he also said that it was my fault and he wouldn't help me clean up the mess. Hearing this, Hai Tong's heart tightened, and she quickly asked, Sister, don't panic yet. How much will it cost to repair the car? I don't know yet. The car owner asked for my phone number and said he would ask me for compensation after the car is repaired. Sister, as long as you and Yang are okay, no matter how much it costs to repair the car, we will pay. I'll lend it to you. Don't worry. Hai Ling's voice choked up. Tong, I'm so useless. I actually caused such a disaster. Sister, it wasn't intentional. Don't be sad. Money is just a worldly possession. As long as everyone is okay, that's all that matters. After comforting her sister, Hai Tong said to her friend, Xiao Jun, I have to go home. Okay. Xiao Jun knew something had happened to Hai Ling and urged her friend to go home. Hai Tong rushed to her sister's house and comforted her sister all evening, returning home late at night. As soon as she opened the door and entered the house, she heard Zhang Yin's emotionless question. Why are you back so late? Hai Tong closed the door while answering. Something happened to my sister. Zhang Yin's icy expression softened slightly, and he asked indifferently, What happened to your sister? She accidentally bumped into a luxury car parked on the side of the road while pushing Yang this morning, scratching the car body. The repair costs are probably going to be quite high. My sister hasn't worked for a few years and has no income, so she's worried she won't be able to afford the repairs. Hearing this, Zhang Yin's dark eyes flickered. Could it be that his sister-in-law had hit Lu Dongming's car? What kind of car did she hit? Will the repair costs be very high? Zhang Yin asked calmly. My sister said it was a Maybach. She scratched the body. It'll probably be a lot of money, right? She had no idea how much a scratch on a Maybach would cost. Zhang Yin remained silent. The person who scratched Lu Dongming's car this morning was really his never-before-seen sister-in-law. Mr. Zhang, it's late. I'll go back to my room to rest. Although she had comforted her sister, Hai Tong's mood was also affected because she felt uncertain. She said goodnight to Zhang Yin and went back to her room. Zhang Yin opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but she had already entered her room. She would arrange and tidy up the flowers on the balcony herself tomorrow morning. However, Zhang Yin felt something wasn't quite right in his heart, as if he had done a good deed and was hoping to be praised by her. Mr. Zhang. The door opened again, and Hai Tong stood at her doorway, asking him, Did you buy the washing machines? How much were they? Original website. 2 washing machines cost a total of 7,000 yuan. Hai Tong compared the price with her sister's washing machine and felt that the price Zhang Yin paid was reasonable, so she didn't say anything more. Hai Tong. Zhang Yin called out to her just as she was about to close the door. Your sister's matter can be resolved. If you don't have enough money, tell me, I can lend some to your sister. Hai Tong said gratefully, Mr. Zhang, thank you. When the repair cost comes out, we'll see if we have enough money to compensate. If not, I will borrow some from you for my sister. They were a couple who had only been married for a few days and were completely unfamiliar with each other. But when something happened to her sister, he expressed his willingness to lend money, which made Hai Tong truly grateful. It's late. Go to rest. Don't think too much about it. There's always a way. You too, good night. Hai Tong said goodnight to him and went back to her room. Jeanine sat in the living room for a short while before getting up and returning to his room. As soon as the door closed, he took out his phone and called Lu Dongming. Dongming, are you asleep? Lu Dongming laughed. How could I be? I usually don't sleep until 2 or 3 in the morning. What's up? Want to have a drink? Come to my place. I'll take out my collection of fine wines and drink with you. How much did it cost to repaint your car? Jeanine hadn't gotten out of the car at the time, so he didn't know how badly Lu Dongming's car had been scratched. The scratches weren't too serious. It only cost about 10,000 yuan. You didn't claim insurance? It's a minor issue, not worth reporting to insurance. Jeanine, why are you suddenly asking about this? Jeanine paused before saying, the woman who scratched your car this morning is the older sister of my grandmother's lifesaver. The two sisters depend on each other. The woman is a housewife with no income. After scratching your car, she's worried about being bankrupt by the compensation. Lu Dongming. What a coincidence. She's actually your grandmother's lifesaver sister. How did you know? Jeanine lied. My grandmother is very fond of her lifesaver and often visits her for chats. Seeing her lifesaver feeling down, my grandmother asked about the reason with concern, and the woman surnamed Hai told her. She really is surnamed Hai. The woman who scratched my car is called Hai Ling. What's your grandmother's lifesaver's name? Hai Tong. Just by hearing the names, you can tell they're sisters. Since she's your grandmother's lifesaver sister, I won't pursue it with her. I don't care about that small amount of money. However, I am the victim. If I appear too magnanimous and let her off without paying a cent, she won't learn her lesson and might accidentally hit someone else's car next time. Lu Dongming is the fourth young master of the Lu family, 35 years old this year. Although he hasn't taken over the family business, he has established his own Lu Corporation with several subsidiaries under his own capabilities, a proper multi-billionaire. He is also generous and loyal. In his younger, more impulsive days, he even dabbled in the underworld. The scar on his face is a remnant from those days. He can't be bothered with plastic surgery, saying that having a scary scar makes him look more imposing. Since you want to teach her a lesson, let her compensate if it's not too much money. I was thinking if it cost a lot, I would give her a discount for your grandmother's lifesaver's sake and let her pay less. 10,000 or so yuan is practically nothing in the eyes of wealthy men like Zhang Yin and Lu Dongming. Even if Hai Ling doesn't work and has no income, she can still afford 10,000 yuan or so by borrowing. It didn't cost much, just around 10,000 yuan. Then I'll let her pay half. For a housewife like her with no income, making her pay a few thousand yuan is like cutting her flesh. She'll remember this lesson and be more careful on the road in the future, not bumping into other people's cars. Luckily, his car was parked on the side of the road. If they had collided while driving, would that adorable baby still be alive? Dongming, thank you. It's a small matter, no need to thank me. By the way, your grandmother really likes that girl named Hai. What was it? Even though she saved your grandmother, you could have just given her a large sum of money. No need for frequent visits. Yet, Grandma Jean often goes to chat with her and even asked you to come and plead for her. Jeanine said indifferently, my grandmother is indirectly blaming us, her grandsons, for being unfilial, none of us having time to accompany her. The old lady's biggest wish is for them, the brothers, to quickly get married and have children, giving her some great-grandchildren to play with. She even said that as long as they get married and have children, she will reward them with 50 million for a grandson and 500 million for a granddaughter. It's because their Jean family has too many men and too few women. Grandma used to long for a granddaughter, but all 3 daughters-in-law gave her grandsons. She can only hope for her grandsons to give her a great-granddaughter. Lu Dongming paused, then said, all elderly people are like this. My grandmother also urged me to get married every day when she was alive. Back then, we brothers found it extremely annoying and didn't even want to go home. But after my grandmother passed away, we started to miss her nagging about marriage. People are always like this. They only know how to cherish something after losing it. Out of the 4 brothers in his family, he's the only one who isn't married yet. The whole family, including his little nephews, keeps asking him when he'll bring a 4th aunt home. It's normal for you to be urged to get married. You're 35, practically 40. If you don't get married soon, By the time your child is born, you'll be old. People will think you're taking your grandson out when they see you two together. Zhang Yin's words were laced with teasing. In fact, if it weren't for his grandmother constantly bothering him, and the fact that he is truly the most filial to her, he wouldn't have gotten married so quickly. His plan was to consider marriage at 35. Even now that he's married, he hasn't made up his mind to spend his life with Hai Tong. Just like he told his grandmother, he needs to carefully assess Hai Tong's character and see if the wife his grandmother chose for him is worth his lifelong devotion. Lu Dongming laughed heartily. Then I'll just raise my son as a grandson. Zhang. That night, Hai Tong slept restlessly, constantly dreaming. When she woke up the next day, she felt a bit listless. As usual, she hung the clothes she had washed in the washing machine the night before on the balcony. Only then did she discover that a long stainless steel rod had been installed on the balcony for her to dry clothes. The large balcony was also filled with various potted flowers, many of which were in bloom or budding. Regardless of the size of the flowers, the petals were all complex and layered. Hai Tong's attention immediately fell on these potted flowers. After hanging the clothes, she assembled the flower stand she had bought yesterday morning and began moving the potted flowers onto it. After bustling around for a while, she sensed someone staring at her. She looked up sharply and met Zhang Yin's dark eyes, his gaze sharp and cold. Having been married for a few days, Hai Tong was already accustomed to his icy demeanor. "Good morning, Mr. Zhang." Hai Tong greeted him and then praised him. "Mr. Zhang, these flowers are all very nice. You really are very efficient." He could perfectly complete any task she gave him. Zhang said in a low voice, "If there's anything you can't handle in the future, just tell me." The things she asked him to do were all trivial matters to him. "Okay." Hai Tong smiled and continued to arrange the flowers. "Which flower shop did you buy these from?" "They're very well maintained." Zhang lied. "I went to many flower shops. I don't remember their names." Hai Tong hummed in response and didn't pursue the matter further. As long as she was satisfied with what he did, it was fine. "What did you buy for breakfast today?" His question reminded Hai Tong of the breakfast issue. She hurriedly took out her phone and checked the time. It was already past 7. She stood up and said apologetically, "Mr. Zhang, I forgot to buy breakfast this morning. Fortunately, it's still early enough to go buy some now. You go ahead and wash up. I'll go downstairs to buy it. What do you want to eat?" Zhang said indifferently, "I'm not picky. You can buy whatever you want." Even if he was picky, he couldn't be picky with her. Otherwise, his charade would be exposed because everything he liked to eat was too expensive. "Okay." Hai Tong moved quickly, swiftly going downstairs and riding her electric scooter to buy breakfast. She quickly returned. She bought 2 baskets of steamed dumplings, 2 fried dough sticks, and 2 cups of soy milk. Zhang looked at the breakfast she bought and couldn't bring himself to eat it for a long time. Hai Tong didn't notice this. She placed the breakfast on the dining table, quickly ate her portion, and then returned to the balcony to fuss over her flowers. After a long silence, Zhang reached out, picked up a fried dough stick, and tentatively took a bite. It was very oily, but also quite fragrant. He just didn't know how long the oil used to fry it had been used for, or whether it was hygienic. Forget it. Eating one occasionally wouldn't kill him. At this moment, Zhang deeply regretted concealing his identity as the young master of the Zhang family in Guanxing and painstakingly maintaining the image of an ordinary worker. It was truly difficult. "Hai Tong." "Mr. Zhang, what's up?" Hai Tong responded from the balcony. Zhang walked onto the balcony, gnawing on a youtiao fried dough stick. "Don't worry too much about your sister's situation. The car your sister scratched belongs to an important client of our company. I remembered that last night and contacted Mr. Lu. He said the repair cost would only be around 10,000 yuan. Although she seemed energetic tending to her plants, Zhang could still see that her mental state wasn't as good as usual, clearly due to a lack of sleep. The reason for her sleeplessness was undoubtedly her sister's predicament. Hai Tong looked up at him, watching him casually eat the youtiao. She thought to herself that he wasn't picky about food, which made him easy to please. Aloud, she asked, "How did you determine it was your company's client's car?" Her sister didn't even know the owner's name. only that he was tall and imposing, with a scar on his face that looked quite frightening. Yang Yang, presumably Hai Tong's niece/nephew, had been scared of him. Mr. Liu visited our company yesterday morning, and I received him. I noticed his car had been scratched and asked a few questions. Mr. Liu told me it was scratched by a woman with a child and a stroller. Last night, when you mentioned it, I wondered if it could be that coincidental, so I called Mr. Liu. Is your sister's name Hai Ling? Mr. Liu said he got your sister's number and would contact her about the compensation once the repair costs were determined. After arranging a potted plant, Hai Tong straightened up and said, "My sister's name is Hai Ling. So, it really is that much of a coincidence." Mr. Jean, did Mr. Liu really say the repair fee is only around 10,000 yuan? 10,000 yuan was something her sister could afford. I asked him, and that's what he said. Hai Tong breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. Thank you, Mr. Jean. Both sisters had been worried about having to pay a large sum. Now, knowing the repair cost was only around 10,000 yuan, Hai Tong suddenly felt the sun outside was especially bright. At the same time, she felt that since their flash marriage, even though they were strangers before getting their marriage license, whenever she mentioned something to Jeanine, he would find a way to help her resolve it. He was a capable and remarkable man. It also gave her a sense of having someone to rely on. You're welcome. Seeing her relieved expression, Zhang Yin's mood also brightened. Ring, ring, ring. Hai Tong's phone rang. She quickly took it out and answered. It was her sister. Sis, I was just about to call you. I told my husband about your situation last night. Coincidentally, the car owner is a client of Zhang Yin's company. Zhang Yin inquired for us, and the repair fee is a little over 10,000 yuan. Sis, can you manage that? Hai Tong hadn't slept well all night because of her sister's incident, let alone Hai Ling, who was directly involved. In the past, when she was still working and had a high income, she wouldn't have worried about compensation. But now, she was a housewife with no income. Her husband had scolded her for causing trouble and stubbornly said he wouldn't help her with the money, leaving her to figure it out herself. She was even more worried than her sister. I can manage a little over 10,000 yuan. You gave me living expenses, and I saved half without telling your brother-in-law. It's enough to cover the repair costs. Oh, I was calling you about that too. The car owner sent me a message at 2 o'clock this morning, giving me an account number and asking me to transfer 9,000 yuan. I saw it when I woke up and immediately wanted to tell you so you wouldn't worry. It seems Mr. Liu isn't asking me to pay for everything. The repair cost was over 10,000, but he only asked her for 9,000, waiving the rest. It was probably out of consideration for her never-met brother-in-law. Hai Ling had a good impression of her sister's husband, Jeanine. When she had her accident, her own husband only knew how to scold her, saying it was her problem and that they had a separate finances agreement, so he wouldn't help her pay. He left her to find a solution on her own.